The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Gold sat with Lance in Morty's private office until the gym leader eventually returned, slightly pinker and out of breath. Like Bugsy's office, it was little more than a box-shaped area, with a desk and television furnishing most of the space. The television displayed live camera feed of Apollo, gagged as Gold had left him, sitting tied to his pillar. Lance had been watching the rocket's motionless figure on the screen, his face pensive. But Gold simply zoned out and listened to a buzzing in his ears. He jerked up as Morty bustled in and shot a glance at the screen. "Any changes?" "Nothing," Lance responded. "Apollo's a wily one, but he can do much less without the use of his fingers. Well, let's not look away for long. I'm gonna take the footage back about 10 minutes. I know what I saw." Morty fiddled with the electronics, and the image of Apollo on the screen jerked erratically as the image was sent backward in time. Morty stopped when Gold appeared on the screen, ran the footage forward again, and settled on his timestamp. "It was right about here," he said as it replayed. "Watch." Gold waited, with eyes glued to the screen, apprehension building. At first, there was only Apollo sitting idly. After a few seconds, however, the image grew dimmer, like a cloud had blocked the sun. The feed blurred and refocused, as if the software's depth perception was encountering difficulties resolving itself. "Something's there," muttered Lance from beside him, "but I can't see what." Apollo's head snapped up, and he stared, expression thunderstruck, at a fixed point somewhere on or off the screen. Gold searched for visual clues in the footage, but the scene began to vibrate, and the picture blurred ever more, until only basic shapes were recognizable. A low-pitched, jerking thrum came over the audio, and though Gold could discern none of it, he had a subtle impression that it was some form of speech. Suddenly, the footage returned to normal, and all that remained of the anomaly was Apollo's new facial expression. His eyes were sharply narrowed, cautious but crafty, and he looked around for a minute, pausing only to cock his head to listen. Then he settled himself and became impassive as before. When the purple shadow of Gengar showed up, Apollo barely acknowledged the visitor. Morty bent down in front of the screen and returned the recording settings back to live feed. The real-time image of the rocket commander remained the same. Frowning, Morty looked at his two guests. "So?" he asked. "What do you make of that?" Lance rubbed his chin. "Just to examine possibilities, I'll submit that it might have been one of the three that run across the land. Ho-oh set one as a guard, so considering the electronic interference, it might have been Raikou." "The electric legendary?" wondered Gold. "Why would Raikou confront Archer?" "I can't say for sure," Lance responded, "but it could have something to do with an attempt Team Rocket once made to capture him, using an electronic rebound system of sorts." Gold stared at the Dragon Master in wonder. "That was a thing? How did you know about it?" "There's a lot that I know, which I have not shared with you," Lance said, with a slightly amused smile. "But time and prudence did not permit, I'm afraid. Anyway, there is my guess. What about you, Gym Leader?" Morty shifted his feet uncomfortably. "Mine is not an informed opinion like yours, but rather an intuition. It's not Raikou. I am a specialist when it comes to seeing the unseen, and this is a presence I have sensed before." He met Gold's eye, face pale. "And I was with you when it happened. What was it, 7 years ago? 8? Gold felt the unpleasant sensation of sweat breaking out on his forehead. "It's silver," he whispered. Lance looked between them, reading the expressions of dread on their faces. "What silver?" he asked. "The enemy. The true enemy," Gold stressed. "You guys have seen Spirit, or Ho-oh as you call her, and you know her to be wise and kind and incredibly powerful." He licked his lips, which had gone dry. "Silver is the opposite. He is also a legendary Pokemon with power to rival hers, but he holds an undying hatred for all humanity." Lance's face betrayed no emotion, but Gold saw the blood drain from his cheeks. "It seems there is much you haven't shared with me either," he said steadily. "Do you know what this Pokemon is?" "It's Lugia," said Gold, and Morty nodded beside him. "The people of Ecruteak City remember his kind in legend, better than any other population of Johto." "Ah," said Lance with understanding. "The bringer of storms, and a superior psychic Pokemon. I know of it. Didn't one of them burn down your tower centuries ago?" "Yes, which is why it's so unsettling to think that one could be there now, doing God knows what," Morty said darkly. Gold fought down a laugh of hysteria. "You're telling me? I thought Spirit had set up some kind of protection around the city to keep him out!" Lance returned his sight to the video feed, scanning, as Gold assumed, for any detectable changes. "If it was Lugia, he may not have come physically," he said. "But in any case, Apollo saw something. What else can you tell us, Gold? You know this creature's very name." "Spirit could tell you more," said Gold. "But I know that Silver's telepathic range is huge. He's been hounding me since the start of my journey, and I've been nearly everywhere in the region by now. Do you get it? He can't be everywhere at once, but he can be anywhere at any time." Gold could feel the sweat trickling down his neck. "Spirit told me not to be afraid of him, because that's how he works, by playing on your negative emotions. But it's hard not to fear him. He's been working on the entire region for a very long time, and some of his subjects have become really twisted." Several faces flashed back in Gold's memory. Some were Pokemon, but most were human. "He's hurt me before, but those he's affected most were the killers, or would have been. Rockets, elites, swarms of wild Pokemon, they've all been pawns of his. They never succeeded, but they sure tried." Morty's face was lined with trepidation. "His influence is that heavy?" "Actually, that doesn't surprise me," said Lance, crossing his arms. "As we've heard, if you'll recall, Apollo blamed Pokemon fans for the merciless turn the Johto League has taken. I was on the League Board of Representatives when we examined the public shift, the new preference toward more extreme Pokemon training. I don't know if it started at the making of technical machines, or power-intensifying hold items like the Life Orb, or the breakthrough to Mega Evolution. All I know is that the thirst for more has been there for a long time, and it simply reasserted itself again in recent days. Silver's doing, I'll be bound," said Gold. "But as you say, the people aren't blameless. It began in us.